government officials insist the mission isolated
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to MBW Live, the Movie Explorer. And today, we're going to be exploring Ghosts of Mars, written and directed by John Carpenter. You might be thinking that's a little bit random, and it is. The only reason I'm talking about Ghosts of Mars right now is, especially in the scope of John Carpenter's filmography, is because first of all, I sort of my own little history with it. It's nothing crazy, but it's just how I remember the movie. But I rewatched it like last week, and just made me realize that movie, out of everything he's done, it doesn't really get talked about that much, or if it does, it's negative, that it's a terrible film and he kind of lost his way, which compared to his other work, I guess, a little bit, but I don't think the film's terrible. It's actually, if you allow it to, you don't take it seriously, it's actually a very fun, entertaining movie to watch. If you have that mindset that, it's just fun, you don't take it serious, it's actually a really enjoyable movie to watch. If you laugh at it or, scoff, that's exactly what you should be doing with that movie. It's not like The Room. It's different league, but in the same way that you enjoy that movie, even though it's absolutely terrible, that's, actually, I wouldn't even say Ghosts of Mars is like that, because it's not terrible. It's not a serious sci-fi or horror. It's just, I don't know, kind of a weird amalgamation of his previous films and, action, horror, sci-fi all wrapped in one. So, I'm going to get into a little bit of details about it if you haven't seen it, or just to kind of recap a little bit. So it came out in 2001. It was also written by Larry Sulkis. He helped John Carpenter write it. And there were rumors that are probably true that it was actually like an Escape from New York, Escape from LA sequel, but on Mars. And it never happened, and he just kind of changed it into this. And the character that Ice Cube plays, Desolation Williams, was supposed to be Kurt Russell's character. Aside from that, it also stars Natasha Henstridge, which I got some things to say about her. Pam Grier, Jason Statham, I believe that was his first major role, or I don't even know if it's major, but his first kind of big Hollywood role. Clea Duvall, and a host of other people, including Robert Carradine, which I always thought that was weird just because I knew him from Lizzie McGuire. He played Lizzie's dad. Does that make me lame? I don't know. So when I'd seen it, I didn't know like he had worked with Carpenter in Body Bags and maybe some other films. He was one of the roster actors. I mean, unfortunately for him, in the later half of his career, he didn't get to enjoy what Kurt Russell did. Not like he's in the same caliber anyway. But anyway, I always thought that was initially distracting. I'm like, Lizzie McGuire's dad, and then he gets his throat slit. Spoiler alert. So let me read you a little summary of the plot here. Set in the year 2176, Mars has been 85% terraformed given the planet and Earth-like atmosphere. Martian society has become matriarchal, centering on the city of Chryse, with smaller outposts connected by an expansive network of trains in the wake of a series of mysterious incidents. Police officer, oh my god, I can't speak, Melanie Ballard is called before a tribunal to give testimony following a disastrous mission to the remote mining outpost Shining Canyon to retrieve convicted felon James Desolation Williams, of which she is apparently the sole survivor. So the movie is told in a series of flashbacks, which is something it also gets flack for. Which I guess on the face it seems, I don't know, maybe corny or for some reason amateurish, even though it shouldn't. It's just like a device to tell the story. I actually like that it's in flashbacks just because that's not the common way to do a movie. And the fact that you see the same scene play out from a different character's perspective, I actually really like that. Just makes it different. I don't know if I would say refreshing, but I actually like that. Basically, I don't think that's a bad thing. And it starts with, or she's telling what happened to her, and it's done through a series of flashbacks to that tribunal. Reviews. Rotten Tomatoes currently stands at 23% for critics, and the consensus is John Carpenter's Ghosts of Mars is not one of Carpenter's better movies, filled as it is with bad dialogue, bad acting, confusing flashbacks, and scenes that are more campy than scary. Well, I wouldn't exactly say that's wrong. Dialogue's not great. Bad acting. I wouldn't even say it's bad acting. If anything, I'd say they fit the mold of what that movie is. And a lot of those actors aren't, they're not known to be bad. And I don't think they're bad in that movie. Confusing flashbacks, I don't understand that. I don't think anything's confusing about it. Scenes that are more campy than scary. Absolutely, which is exactly the point. So why should you care? Why should you watch Ghosts of Mars? Well, if you're a fan of John Carpenter, there's your reason right there. Which can be a double-edged sword because you go on, liking his other movies, and this one's just not up to that par, but it's supposed to be not taken seriously. It's just a fun movie, of which he says that himself. And sometimes when people say that, they're just saying that to cover their ass. They made a terrible film, and yeah, it was supposed to be like that. It was campy. You don't take it serious. The Happening, shining example. M. Night Shyamalan. He was quoted, I don't remember if it was a interview or whatever, where he was talking about The Happening, and he mentioned oh, it's my scariest movie I've ever done. Oh, it's gonna scare you to pieces. And of course it comes out, it's absolutely terrible. Even if you looked at it as oh, it's supposed to be like that, like a B movie. It's not even a good B movie. It's not. It's just kind of cringeworthy because you could feel that. It was just Shyamalan being Shyamalan, thinking oh my god, the plants, they're releasing something and they're fighting back and they're killing. Which actually, that idea in itself isn't bad, maybe slightly goofy, but for some reason he just executed it terribly. Mark Wahlberg was terribly cast or directed or both, because he's not, he can be Marky Mark, but he's actually a good actor in the right role. The Departed being a highlight of that. So I wouldn't at all say it was his fault, actually, and he, of course, is embarrassed by the movie, as I would be. Ghosts of Mars isn't like that, and if you want a prime example of that, at the end of the movie, spoiler alert, again, I don't care about spoilers here. If you haven't seen the movie, just go watch it. You should have seen it already. But 2001. Came out over 20 years ago. At the end of the film, after she's told the story, she wakes up. The ghosts have come back to where she's at to wreak more havoc. And Ice Cube shows up. He throws her a gun. They go out there, and they're having little witty banter. You would have made a good crook, and you would have made a good cop. Nah, let's just go kick some ass. She says, that's what we do best. Ice Cube turns and looks at the camera. If that doesn't tell you that it was not supposed to be serious, I don't know what does. That's the prime example, if you didn't know that already, that he purposely made it the way that it was. And you don't have to like that, but to say that it was, at that point he's a hack or lost his way, not accurate. You can't say that about the ward and everything after what little there has been of that from him. But Ghosts of Mars doesn't count. It's just a fun action sci-fi horror movie, which actually is the concept of these ghosts that possess you, whether they're Martians or whatever, and they never die. They'll possess you until your body dies, and then they're just whoosh into the next person. That's actually kind of terrifying because you can't stop it. It's an unstoppable evil, if you will, force. That is actually scary. And it's because how do you deal with that? You would just have to lock all those people up and hope they can never escape. That's really your only recourse. But then again, I guess they could figure that out and kill themselves, and then they're free to leave. Literally an unstoppable force. So not a terrible idea if you actually wanted to make that scary. But there is something I got to talk about, which was it one of the intentional things, or at the moment did he actually think it was cool? But the main villain, he's what do they call him? Big Daddy Martian or something? Let me make sure here. Oh my god. Pretty sure it's Big Daddy Martian. Big Daddy Mars or something like that. Where? Oh my god. I know this dude's credited. Why is he not showing up? Well, so I'm not just staring into space and looking for this. I'm pretty sure he's called like Big Daddy something. Oh wait, Richard. Dude, what this? Apparently he's not credited. Set around. Wow. Well, that sucks. Let's just call him Big Daddy Mars. I'm pretty sure it's something like that. So he made a choice for this guy to always scream some gibberish language. Apparently the Martians are mutes, except for this guy. This guy has enough voice for all of them, and all he does is scream. It's not even a language. I'll demonstrate in a second, and I'm gonna risk this stream getting terminated or copyrighted, whatever, just to show you the actual clip, because I just have to. Hold on, I gotta do something for to properly try to emulate it. So I'm still here. I'm just gonna do a quick intermission thing here. Still here. Don't go anywhere. Still here. That's what he does. That's the only thing that this guy says in this whole movie. I'm going to show you that right now, so you don't think I'm just crazy. Alright, you ready for it? Let me quiet this down. Alright. So, as you could hear, I did a perfect impression of that. That's all that guy does. Sorry, I just had to do it one more time. So, that's the one valid criticism I'll accept of that movie. That was a terrible choice because I feel like that's something South Park would do to make fun of this movie. Because that's just a little too much to say that, you know, it's all in the fun. I wanted him to have kind of a tard voice because, and again, I've mentioned this before in my other videos. I use the word tard and retarded. I'm not using that in a derogatory sense towards mentally challenged people. It's just a good word to say something stupid. You don't like that? Too bad. It's a beautiful way to say that. It's perfect. He has a tarded voice. It's a little too much to say that was intentional. That was a flaw he did that probably thought was cool in the moment. So you can get a good look. Big Daddy Mars. Da, 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 da! Da! He's got a cool look, actually. It's that voice absolutely kills it. I'll admit, I came across this movie when I was a kid at like a Blockbuster. I saw the DVD cover, which I thought I had that ready to go, but maybe I don't. I'm always so prepared. So it's essentially this, but, you know, portrait format. I just thought, huh? A guy with piercings in his fucking fingers and vampire nails and a weird... I gotta watch this. So when I saw it, I don't even remember how old I was. It actually did kind of creep me out. There is some gore in the movie. Severed heads, people cutting themselves, cutting their pieces of skin off and filing their teeth and stuff. I don't know. It did creep me out when I was a kid. And I guess probably the idea of ghosts possessing you and doing that to your body was actually frightened me. And then I went through a period where I thought it was terrible, like most people do, and his worst movie, before I knew about The Ward, which is absolutely his worst movie. And then I started to have a better appreciation for it. No longer thought it was terrible, but, you know, on his lower scale of movies. And rewatching it recently, because admittedly I hadn't done it in a couple years, I had a really good time watching it. It made me realize, like, I was totally wrong about this movie, and so are a lot of other people. You just have to go in it with the right mindset and probably, ultimately, maybe have some more wisdom on it, which is something you can only gain by just letting yourself age. It can strengthen or reshape your beliefs and opinions and what you think about things. Make you realize you were wrong. Some people might still need some time on it, but I think ultimately, if you just let go, it's kind of just a fun goofball concept movie. Yes. So, another thing I wanted to talk about is Natasha Henstridge. She plays she's the protagonist basically. The main police officer. Also something I never noticed when I was a kid, or, actually until the last time I watched it, to be honest. As you heard, if you've been watching that description, a matriarchal society, I didn't even notice that. Maybe that's, a credit to putting that in there for whatever reason he had. That's the right way to do it, where it's not in your face. Even though it kind of is in your face, I guess maybe they don't. It went over my head when I was younger. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just an interesting choice. And it totally is. All the leaders are women. He has a reason. I'm blanking now, but he had a reason for wanting to do that. Whatever the reason, it was an interesting choice. I don't think it really changed. If they were men, I don't think it would really change anything. But having said that, that segues into what I want to talk about with Natasha Henstridge, which I guess the other actresses too. You can get into a whole thing with different genders and feminism and all this other crap, but at the end of the day, men or women are different, period. Biologically, mainly, but that also shapes your mental, because the hormone levels are different. That absolutely affects how you think about things, your mental state and all that, and how you react to certain things. If you don't believe me, go do a steroid cycle for 4 months, high dose. It's not going to change you, but you're going to react to things a little bit differently. It won't change the way you think, or it won't make you more angry, but when you get angry, you're definitely more angry, if that makes any sense. Anyway, in order for a woman honestly just to be believable and that kind of masculine role when it's comes to the military, because a political leader, it doesn't have as much of a impact, but in the military I think it absolutely does, because you literally can, you're in combat. It's, even the best UFC fighting woman, boxer, whatever, they can kick a normal guy's ass, probably like me, for example. But if they go against a trained male fighter, they're just going to lose unless they get really lucky. They get the right shot off, just based on pure biology. Anyway, I'm not trying to go on a big tangent like that. I'm just simply trying to say that Natasha Henstridge, much like Sigourney Weaver and in the Alien franchise, is believably a believable person in that role. Showing masculine traits, being a leader. Again, I'm not trying to open that Pandora's box, but you can't shove any woman in there, just like you can't shove any man in a similar situation swapped. They have to be fit. Surprisingly, because you wouldn't maybe think that right off the bat by looking at her, because she's a beautiful woman who's could have been a supermodel. I'm sure she did model when she was younger, but she went into acting. She's believable in that. She has fight scenes. She has gives off kind of a vibe of authority and believability in that role. So I'm just trying to give her kudos, basically, just like Sigourney Weaver. She pulls that role off believably. That's all I'm trying to say here. Because honestly, you just, whatever your ideals are or your beliefs, it's got to be the right fit. Otherwise, you just won't believe it, because it's just biology and stuff. And I don't think she gets enough credit for being that way. She hasn't exactly been in a ton of roles like that. Like, I know she was in, obviously, Species. She was in her early days the acting wasn't that great, but I think she did okay. She was in the Whole 9 Yards, Whole 10 Yards, that little series. Smaller role. Roles like Ghost of Mars, not too many that she's done that, are big movies. Not that Ghost of Mars is a big movie. But she was great. Like I said, I never questioned it. I thought she was entertaining. She's attractive, which is always a good thing. Yeah, I had no issues with her role. It just made me realize, like, she could have done more roles like that. And she is someone like Sigourney Weaver, but on a different level, because obviously she's not as good of an actress. But even to a more surprising state, because like I said, she looks like a runway model or something, but she still is believable. Like the moment specifically in the film where this big dude like tries to grab her or something, and she instantly like kind of one of those moves, and it doesn't, you're not like, okay, I'm sure it just looked like, yeah, she got the drop on this guy. She knows what she's doing. Obviously this guy was really strong. I'm not a big UFC guy. I don't know those moves. I know because I've had something similar done to me, just like as a preview, that you get someone in a one of those positions, doesn't matter how strong you are, you're just like, yeah, whatever, just let go. So that's that. She's good in the role. I'd say if anything, most of the fault with her performance would be just with the script, that there's not much there. Pam Grier's in the movie. Again, she's just one of those actresses that they just have this authenticity factor to them, where they could just, in any role, they're just instantly believable. Kind of someone like Robert De Niro. Just kind of a wild comparison, but just that's to me what he is, although he's at an even higher level, obviously. Jason Statham's in it. Like I mentioned, one of his first bigger roles. He's just Jason Statham. Jason Statham. All right. I can't do him, but he's just how he usually is. He hasn't changed in 20 years. Except for he had a little bit more hair. Not completely bald yet. Yeah, it's just a fun movie. It's a lot. It's kind of like a lot of shoot 'em up parts to it, which I'll pull up a little picture of that for you. I will say the fight scenes aren't like awesome. It's just kind of I don't know, not even a typical 80s fight, but just kind of like a cheaper fight scenes. Kind of like how Hot Shots Part 2, where guys are just getting shot and they're falling down and spinning around and stuff, like kind of like that. Or Commando, I guess, is the non-parody version of that. Yeah, Denzel Washington, another example, classic example of that. You can literally be in any role and you won't question it. When actors like that, they don't even have to try. Like, they're never bad. They're just times where they're even better. the heck happened to all this stuff? That's a terrible picture. Nope. 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 Not that. Okay. Let's take a look at this. This will tell you all that you need to know about the shoot 'em up style of this movie. So there's Ice Cube dual wielding MP5Ks, whatever those are called, the smaller version of it. Dual wielding, and in the movie, you can't tell in the picture obviously, he's moving his head back and forth comically. You should have just stared straight, to be honest. So there's a lot of scenes like this. I just call them shoot 'em up scenes. Oh. Not that. So for anybody coming in, the format of the live version of the movie Explorations works even better when there's more people watching, chiming in the chat, because it's like this is a movie exploration, but it's a collaborative one where we all talk about it and explore it together. Still working on a few things, ironing out a few kinks. Every single time I've done this, I've had issues in the beginning, which is why I'm always late. Hopefully that gets better. Part of the problem is I'm using a Mac, which just, it's great for things and terrible for other things. I'm not liking it for doing this. Literally having to uninstall a driver / program and reinstall it every single time to get something to work. Very annoying. That being said, I'm also just ironing out a few kinks is the best way to describe it. I want to be a little bit more structured, have a little bit more there, but at the same time, I don't want it too structured. This is like a hangout exploration. Which, speaking of, I'll fill you guys in if you are watching on Wednesday, 5:30 p.m. MST. I will have the first guest on this. His name is Dominic, and he made a Halloween fan film called Stocks 2 and Halloween Stocks 1. The sequel came out. God, sorry. Sequel came out 2 weeks before my fan film did, and we had the same exact thing happen to both of our films, which is how I met him and started talking to him. And he's going to come on. We're going to talk about our films, fan films in general. I'm sure the franchise. It'll be cool. So stay tuned for that. We'll have the first guest on here. After that, I don't have a set schedule on and that's on Wednesday, by the way, if I didn't mention that. I have a set day on my next episode, but I know it may not be the one right after that, but I'll be doing 2 episodes with Cole Gray, who was in Mask of Evil. He played Dean and Michael Myers. He has a comedy channel called Cole Gray Comedy. And we do everything together, essentially. And he's my best friend. So he's going to come on the show. We're going to talk about movies. I won't reveal the topic yet. And we'll also be doing a live commentary, essentially, on Mask of Evil, since I couldn't, or he was the other half to that equation, making that movie in many ways. So I think that'll be cool to do live commentary with him. Of course, in the future, I'm sure he's going to come on many times, but also we'll have more guests and, of course, an infinite number of movies to talk about. So, you want to explore these movies with me at MBW Live, the Movie Explorer? Invite your friends, family, whatever. Watch the show, chime in, and let's explore together. Oh, another thing to mention about Ghosts of Mars. The reason I'm doing this whole thing is the score is actually pretty awesome. Of course, John Carpenter made it. It's like a metal score, like heavy metal music, essentially. Fits the movie perfectly. And it fits the good time of watching the movie. It's the perfect movie to drink a beer, drink whatever you got, take whatever you take, and just have a good time, especially if you watch it with other people. It's not a think piece movie. And it kind of, the funny thing about that is it does get into, potential areas where it could be kind of like, oh, what are the implications of, this is a metaphor for colonization, blah, blah, blah. And literally, it doesn't ever go into that realm. It just, they kind of poke at it, and literally at the end of the film there's, let's just go kick some ass. Now that's cool. That's honestly what most movies should be, just have a good time. That's what they're for, to entertain us, make us forget about whatever problems we got for 2 hours or however long the movie is. Just have a good time. The trick is to weave in something important or profound in there without being distracting and hitting people in the face, which is what movies have been like for the past 10 years, essentially. Not all of them, of course, but a good amount of them. Here's a clue. If it's ever in the dialogue, yeah, that's hitting you in the face. That's very hard to do without it, to put it in the dialogue without that hitting you in the face. It's one of the most cringeworthy things you can do, and it's all over the place right now. God, I've some terrible examples of that, man. I don't even remember the show, but my wife was watching the show like 2 years ago. I'd say at the height of what's going on. If you know, you know. Oh my god, it was absolutely terrible. It was literally like they took an ad out of that and the characters were just reading it. They weren't even acting. Don't know. It was on one of the streaming networks. I know that. One of their shows. I don't know if it was Netflix or whatever. Don't remember. So here's a little piece of trivia for what I was talking about. In a 2011 interview, John Carpenter stated he was intentionally trying to make Ghosts of Mars as over-the-top and tongue-in-cheek as possible. He claimed he was trying to make a mindless and silly yet highly entertaining and thrilling action flick where the universe allows its characters and plot points to be silly without being full-fledged comedies. Akin to 80s movies like Commando, like I mentioned. I hadn't even read this, so I didn't even know that was mentioned. Rambo: First Blood Part 2 and Predator. Looking back on the film and its criticism, he stated he was frustrated that most people thought the film was meant to be a serious horror and feels that he should have made the film more openly comedic and in on the joke, saying, "It's called Ghosts of Mars, for Christ's sake. Why would people take this movie seriously?" Well, that can be the problem when people complain like, "Oh, it was so on the nose." Well, sometimes you think it's on the nose and people are idiots and it's not hitting their nose. Speaking of this is making me realize a really easy way to add to this exploration and make it easy for all of us is just to read a couple trivia lines from good old IMDB where somebody else has done the work for us. John Carpenter revealed that he had become burnt out after he made this film and made the decision of leaving Hollywood for good. It would not be until 9 years later that he made a full feature film, which was The Ward, which was absolutely terrible. That is his true worst movie. At which point he did become a hack, and he still is. Which is very sad. He could still make a mean score, though. I have not watched it, but his Suburban Nightmare show, which apparently one of the episodes he directed, I have also heard is absolutely terrible. He's just someone of his time, and that time has passed, I guess. He was perfectly fit for it. He's always been an interesting director in the sense that he used to have a very good understanding of cinema, entertainment, and there's a certain sense you need to just make movies that are, I mean, I hate to put it this way, but classics. And I mean, they become that way for a reason. They're digestible by a lot of people. He was good at making magic in the bottle films where they shouldn't, like, Halloween 1978, what's so great about it? It's a simple idea, but it's not, there's nothing really groundbreaking in it. Simple idea, but he made a classic that birthed a whole genre of films that are called slashers. Hint, hint, that's something else I'm going to be talking about in the future. And he also, depending on the film, was good at weaving in certain more profound ideas, like They Live. Let's listen to this one. John Carpenter said that Natasha Henstridge downplayed some of the flashbacks framing sequences, and she replied that he should have directed her better. He responded, "There was a basketball game on television, and I wanted to get out of there." You don't know if some of these things are true. I feel like that's something he would actually say. Which started to hint at his future hackness. Screw it. There's a game on TV. Get me out of here. At that point, maybe you shouldn't be making movies anymore if that's what's on your mind. But, like I said, I'm not a doubter of him making this film the way it was made, which was not to be taken seriously. 100% believe him on his word on that. Oh, here we go. This is the reason of the matriarchy. One of the reasons Carpenter wanted to set the film in a matriarchy was because he didn't want to have his female action heroes have to prove themselves before people took them seriously. Adding to what I was talking about. So that's kind of a built-in groundwork of, hey, in this universe, the women, or on Mars at least, are the leaders. Which is kind of a cheat code because you could still have that, and then if you don't believe him, it doesn't matter. Luckily, he found all, at least in the leader positions, like Natasha Henstridge, Pam Grier, and I forget the like main, I don't know, president or leader of the colony that she's talking to. All of them were believable in their roles. You know, if you put, what's a good example of that? I don't know, Carmen Electra, who's not really an actress, but she's been in movies, as one of these people you just wouldn't. Tell me I'm wrong. And here's some more context on the origin of the story. It has been consistently rumored that the script was originally written as a sequel to Escape from New York. Escape from LA, with the character Snake Plissken as the prisoner, but when Paramount wouldn't back it as such due to the financial and critical failure of Escape from LA, Plissken was rewritten as Desolation Williams. However, in a 2022 interview with Fandom, when asked if Ghosts of Mars was originally a sequel to these films, John Carpenter said, "No, but that's a good story. I like that." So the fact that that's recent-ish, I'd say it's less believable, but then again, apparently that's a quote from him. Now, I don't think it has to be literally like, Escape from Mars, and then he just changes the title and a few other things. It could have just heavily been influenced by that, because it kind of is an amalgamation of all of his films and styles into that film. It made in like a way that's just, a fun movie not to be taken serious. And the practical effects in the film, especially for being 2001, where they're starting to use CGI more, I like them. I thought they're good. It did remind me. It had more of an older feel to it, 80s, early 90s. Of course, there was some CGI in there. They're throwing like saw blades or something, and those are CGI and heads popping off, which was a little distracting. I'd say, if anything, like the frame rate felt sped up in those moments, because the actual CGI, it happens so quick. It's not even like you see it and it looks bad. It's just, it looks off. Natasha Henstridge joined the production just 1 week before filming began. Courtney Love had dropped out over a broken ankle. As John Carpenter says, she just didn't work out. Oh God, that would have been terrible if Courtney Love was in it. Well, that shows again, Natasha Henstridge didn't even have that much time to prepare, and she still just fit right in. In 2006, Interview Ice Cube nominated this as the worst movie he had appeared in, calling it unwatchable in many ways. John Carpenter really let us down with the special effects on that one. I disagree, sir. CGI, maybe, but you can't even compare that at that time period. It looked like something out of a film from 1979. I don't get how that's like a bad thing. Movies, Alien, Hello, for example, looks better than most crap that's made now with all the technology and greatness we have. That's where a lot of confusion goes with modern movies, like The Thing prequel that came out after The Thing in 2011. Alien Romulus, even. That's like a common fallacy where it's like, the effects look like they're from 79. Good. That's a good thing. That means they're going to hold up and not get outdated like CGI. CGI to me is way more distracting than like a kind of, something you can tell is a puppet or like an effect. Because at least it's real. Depending on what it is, like The Thing is one of the perfect examples of that for me. Because first of all, I think it's believable, but yeah, if you really think about it, you can be like, okay, well, this is like a latex puppet prop thing and it's animatronic or whatever, but it's still real. They actually filmed it, and in that case, it's like an alien creature, so it has like an out for that, where like it's not like a human body, it's like this alien creature. For all you know, that's just how it looks. It looks like it's this latex thing or whatever, or when it's transforming. Much better than when you can instantly tell that's CGI. That's CGI. That's CGI. That's all I think when I see that. I'm not like, oh man, it's so believable. I'm just, that's CGI. Wow, that's a lot of CGI. It's much more impressive. Not discounting, because of course VFX, it's an art form. CGI, it's just really nailing it down in real practical form, to me, is just much more impressive. As long as we're in the period where we're actually making movies and not just typing in a keyboard and making it with AI, I think that's always going to be the case. I don't care how good CGI gets, because it's not just the look itself, it's what you're seeing. It's like such an overload where you're like, I know this is not possible, so it's CGI. Doesn't matter how good it looks. I will say it, Avatar, specifically The Way of Water, manages that line really well, because literally everything you're looking at except for the actors that are human is CGI, but it's not distracting. Like, they were able to get in that film get to a point where it's like that switch turns off in my brain where I'm not distracted by that. I'm just taking it in like it's all real. Very hard to do. Takes a lot of money. And good old James Cameron, he's the pioneer of that. He's always pioneering stuff. But yeah, that criticism, like, oh, it looks like from something 1979. That's exactly what happened with The Thing. I'm sure that happened with Alien Romulus. It's a good thing. I want to be there to say that. Just pop out. Yeah, there's a lot of, speaking of Avatar, I mean, there's a lot of impressive things on how they did that. And a major reason that it works so well is because most of what you're seeing was actually shot, and then they CGI over the actors. For example, the water, nobody except for James Cameron would actually shoot them underwater, you know, with that whole camera rig get-up suit thing, because that just makes it that much more realistic. Everyone else would be like, no, we're not doing that. That's too much of a whatever. Actors aren't going to want to do it. We don't want to do it. Too much work. But it's that little extra that just makes it real, makes it happen. So, we're approaching the hour mark. If you've been watching, thank you. If you find this later, stay tuned for more. As I've said and will continue to say for the next couple episodes, it's going to get better, brighter. I'm going to have guests on more commonly. Stick with me here. It'll be worth it. Ghosts of Mars. I recommend you see it if you haven't. If you think it's terrible, give it another shot. Turn your brain off. Just enjoy the ride. Probably be better if you have something, not just watch it straight up. Or maybe not. I don't know. Just give it another chance. It's not as terrible as you may have been led to believe or previously thought. It's just a good film. It's a good time of a film. It's the last hurrah of John Carpenter, a legend who is no more. And as I said earlier, Wednesday, 5:30 p.m., Dominic Cousineau-Benoit, I think is how you say his name. I'll clarify when I actually talk to him. Director of Halloween Stocks 2, which is now Stocks 2. He made a fan film. I'm going to be talking to him. He's going to come on the show on Wednesday. And if you can't tell by his name, yes, that's a French name, but he's actually Canadian. So he lives in Quebec or Montreal. So it's a little bit later for him over there, but he's going to come on. We're going to talk about fan films, art films, and I'm really curious about certain things that I'm going to ask him. So can't wait for that. His film currently has, I think, 113,000 views, and his first one has 180-something thousand now. Just to my credit, if you've noticed, my film is doing pretty good. Technically, out of the stuff I've done at my level, it's the most successful thing I've done. His channel is entirely dedicated, at least that one, to Halloween fan films and, you know, what he made for that. So it's much more targeted. My channel is not this one and MBW Films. I'm trying to change that, but MBW Films anyway, like, I don't just stick to one genre or topic. And when you do that, of course, it's just harder to gain a following because When it comes to YouTube, a lot of people just want one thing. That's where they're going to you for. If you do anything else, I don't care. I'm not watching, which is fine. That's just not how I like to work or operate, which means this little journey is going to be slower for me. It is what it is. I accepted it a long time ago. It's just how I want to do it. But so his is more targeted. He made a film a year ago that was very successful. It already had 100,000 views before he put Stalks 2 out. He's out there already, so he's algorithm is favoring him for that kind of content, which is exactly what you want to do if you want to hack the algorithm. Of course, I don't do that because I just can't be pigeonholed like that. I just can't do it. Anyway, I'm only saying that because I feel like our films, while totally different tones, again, I'm getting into this early. We'll talk about it on that date, on that show. But they're similar quality levels. They're good and bad for different reasons, or similar reasons. They're both very good quality films with different strengths and weaknesses. I'll put it that way. This film is very good. It's really well made. Looks awesome. Okay, tune in Wednesday. We'll talk about this. I'm getting into it early. So again, Ghost of Mars, give it a shot. Thank you for watching MBW Live. And I guess having said all that for an hour, there's only one thing left to say. Besides, thanks for tuning in. And goodbye.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?